The What's Neat show is sponsored by Lombard Hobbies, your value hobby shop for over 40 years of modelers helping modelers. Big inventory, value pricing, fast shipping, and great service.
And by Bachmann Trains. Now that's the way to run a railroad. Check out their website at bachmanntrains.com.
And thank you for helping us support the best hobby in the world.
This is What's Neat for July 2022. I'm your host, Ken Patterson, and this month we've got a fantastic show in that we start the video out with one of the most amazing cityscape layouts that I have ever seen, Vic Smith's City Edge layout. This is an amazing 20-minute interview, again with a layout that is nighttime operation, daytime operation, and even includes thunderstorms and weather. It's an absolute treat this month on What's Neat. Also, we've got Jason Thomas, who visited the studio down here and shared with us some easy ways to do model railroad scenery with some ground cover that's just absolutely beautiful and sure to please. Also this month, Larry Harrington from Bachmann Industries shared with us a lot of the new products that you will be seeing at the NMRA National here in St. Louis in just a few weeks. So be sure to check that out. It's great when Larry's on the show. Also this month, I'd like to say, please check out the What's Neat This Week video podcast that we shoot every Saturday night, keeping you updated on what's new in the hobby with new products, special guests, and a lot of very interesting segments sure to please. It's always fun to produce that show for you. Also, I'd like to say Alex Kovich at Lombard Hobbies. He is Lombard Hobbies pre-order sales and media networking director, an absolutely amazing person with over 5.5 years of experience at Cato USA in Chicago. Whereas he was in fact headed up their sales team up there, an absolutely amazing individual with some great knowledge of our hobby. And so with that, let's continue on with the rest of this July 2022 What's Neat.
For this segment of What's Neat, I'm sitting with Vic Smith in Bridgeton, Missouri, and he is the famous builder of this layout that we've all come to know as the City's Edge. Vic, welcome to the What's Neat show. This is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me about your passion for this hobby, Vic.
Really not too much passion, just wanting to build a model scene. Not really much of a model railroader, never really was. I just got interested into it back in the mid-'80s. I got back interested in doing model railroading. And I wanted the city stuff, and I wanted a little sideshow layout, not really a basement empire type thing, just a sideshow thing. And the city stuff is what it was when you're trying to entertain people that aren't model railroaders into a model railroad. You really had to have some interest. I like the mountain scenes and the big bridge scenes, you know, the desert scenes, stuff like that. But I needed something to create interest that people would actually want to look at and see, and also just be a sideshow. So back in, I guess it was the mid-'80s and that, when you and Vic Roseman and Bob Lundy and these guys and Jim Sacco started producing all those great city-type buildings, you know. And then the Walther's catalog, the cover was probably my first inspiration, seeing, you know, Vic Roseman's stuff back in '87, or I can't remember what cover that was, Kenny, but... and then all the productions you were putting out with Mainline Modeler. You were in Model Railroader a lot, and Eric Bruman and those guys. Gary Hoover had some great layouts. And Gary Hoover had the Chicago type theme at one time, Kenny, and he had the city scene, and I liked that a lot. And I liked a lot of the city stuff that you were doing with the Midwest Valley Modelers, layout back in the one you used to travel around with Dave Davis, my buddy.
Yes.
You know, the Brass Ferret, Phil Sheenan back in the day. Yeah, that was some. The '80s were important. You know, with the hobby shop scenario on Friday nights, some guys would meet at Tinkertown and Clayton. Myself, I was mostly with Hensey's Hobby House and Alan Biggs and Bill Hensey. They were great.
That's a lot of history.
Oh, yeah. Well, there were hobby shops were everywhere back in the 80s, you know. You go everywhere, 12, 15 hobby shops in St. Louis. You know, there's 3 or 4 now. You know, the internet obviously has taken over, or eBay and stuff like that. But mainly, I just like the city stuff. So I got involved with the castings, doing the castings. As far as I think that was George Celios who used to use all the castings with plaster. Use a rubber mold.
Right.
And used the plaster. But I wanted a urethane because I needed something more durable because I didn't want to drop it, break it. Plaster is very heavy. So I went with the urethane, and Smooth On Corporation back in the early 90s I got involved with Smooth On out of Olathe, Kansas it was, I believe. They gave us some good deals where you get a gallon of material for $80, which
Right.
a gallon kit was 2 gallons actually. It was a 50-50 mix.
That's right.
And so we could produce these bigger buildings. When I would make a master or something, a flat facade of a building, I would spend 100 hours on making this one, 8 inches by 8 inches high of a building facade. And so I'd make a rubber mold of that, and then you'd pour your liquid urethane in there. In 15 minutes, you got 100 hours right there, and therefore you could mass produce them, mass produce the walls. The urethane was also very durable when I was painting the buildings, because the painting the buildings was the most time consuming for me. Even though building them and making them strong with super glue and reinforcements, because the material is going to take a beating of spray painting,
Right.
then alcohol weathering, and then mortar lines rubbed in with paint, and then weathered, repainted again. And I had people ask me about painting the buildings, and every building on this layout's been painted at least 5, 6, maybe even 7 times. And it just took that to get the realistic look of it. The street's the same thing. It's all 5, 6, 7, sometimes even 10, maybe even a dozen times, Kenny. I had to spray paint it, mist it, weather it, sand it, spray paint it, weather it, mist it, sand it, and it was a process.
Right.
But you got all the different colors. Each time I would spray it, I would use a slightly different color. So when you sanded it down and you weathered it down with the alcohol stain, you got a little more of the different colors from each application would come through, which made it more real life. And if nothing else, it made the model building look more interesting.
Right.
More colors involved, would catch your eye more.
So many people like to model scenery, farmland, deciduous trees, mountains, but you've chose to make mountains out of a cityscape.
Yeah.
And this part of the layout that's right behind us right now is one of the most famous parts of your layout, and we're going to cover the rest of it as we discuss this.
Yeah.
But the fact is, you've created streets that are weathered just right, the cracks, the coloring, and it's not just the streets, but it's the animation, it's the lighting. You've got a thunderstorm effect, and you model the city the way the city really is.
Yeah.
The rawness, the police, the bars, the tavern, the nightlife. Tell me about that desire to do that.
Yeah, the nightlife was something I always wanted to have, because a lot of the scenes are kind of like scenes I've been through before, the bar scenes. They add interest. A lot of people that see this layout aren't model railroaders. They're just your common bar folk that come over here, and they like seeing, the applications of the bars, and, there's pawn shops, strip clubs type stuff. Yeah, it's not your average model railroaders type layout. It wasn't really built for kids, because I've had people come over wanting to show their grandkids my layout, which, I love it. I built it to show it off. But it wasn't really built for kids. It was built for adults. And some people can understand that. Other people go, how do you build a model railroad and not include kids? Well, I just did it. And then some people say, well, if you build a model railroad for kids, they'd worry about you too, so it doesn't matter. But the layout basically just built this for a sideshow for people who would come on over. There are some model railroaders that do come over, and those guys really enjoy it also.
Right. And another thing I've noticed about this layout is not only did you visually model the cityscape, which is horizontally up and down, but you've chosen to place the track work the same way. The main line is running through the layout, whereas it's built on a micro-engineering girder bridge through the entire length, but yet in the street running section, you've got a train that runs back and forth in the street to create that depth and that elevation.
Yeah, and then add more interest. My thing was, again, you're entertaining not model railroaders. You want to catch somebody's eye when they come down, and the more action you got, like you were saying with the animation,
right?
The scenes in the buildings, the street running, the overhead L's, with the lighting and everything, that created interest, and it drew the viewer's attention to the layout, because I wanted to show it off. That's why I built it. I put a lot of time in it, and I want to show it off, and I want to have people enjoy it and really appreciate it.
What would you say is the era that you're modeling? What's a timeline of this layout?
Yeah, a lot of people ask me that. It can be anywhere from probably mid '60s to present day, actually, with the switching out of the signs, vehicles, your locomotives, rolling stock. But the era of it, I would say, basically I wanted was the '70s. Basically.
Another thing that you've modeled so well is the atmosphere. You've got lighting, whereas this layout can be seen in the dark, but yet during the daytime it's bright like it is right now with the beautiful clouds. Yeah. And yet you've also got the creation of the weather elements, the storms, the thunder. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the thunderstorm system, which is by Broadway Limited, that's a neat option. I can have thunderstorms and lightning flash in there, and Josh Barton, your buddy, turned me on to that a couple of years ago, and I got a couple of them on Amazon right before because if Josh didn't tell me that, like 2 months later, you couldn't find them.
Right.
And I think today still you can't find the Thunder and Lightning, I believe it was called, by Broadway Limited, which and there's a woofer. The woofer is still available, and that's for the rolling thunder type system that Broadway has, which is also pretty fantastic. But the main thing I'm impressed with these days are the locomotives, Kenny, as we got coming up behind us, the Bachmann Amtrak.
Yes.
I mean, I just love it now because I can go out, I can spend, they're going to be expensive. They're anywhere $200 to $300. You got to buy a locomotive like these, but they're fully done, fully sound, fully detailed. I spend my $200-300. It's done. I love it. I can spend my time on the layout or just sitting back running trains and doing nothing. I wasn't really much of a model railroader as far as building locomotives and boxcars, which a lot of guys are. I never have really. I did some decaling on some for some weathering, for some graffiti and stuff like that. But other than that, mostly my hobby, most of my time with the hobby has been building the cityscape. And all the wiring. There's a lot of wiring going involved. There's over 500 different individual light bulbs on this.
Right.
And that, I moved in this house in 2002. I did have one section already built back in my old house, which I started back in '95, probably really. 1995.
So you've got over 30 years in this.
Yeah, I do. Some of the buildings are 30 years old. Vic's place right there, that's 25 years old. That's the model right there. It's one of the most famous landmarks I have on the layout. But there's another building I got over there that was at my second layout, which I'll show you a photo of that. And that's 32 years ago. So actually.
Now you've also got this beautiful segment where recessed in the wall, you've got 3 of these beautiful double-track mainline overland brass bridges, and you've chosen to light this in such a way that it's not just about the trains, but the whole effect inlaid into the wall is almost like a picture or a painting that moves.
Yeah. The overland bridges, which were just a true hallmark of my layout, as far as mounting it in the wall, have it recessed into the wall. Those bridges they're brass bridges. They came out, I think, in the mid '90s, and they're like $1,000 a piece. Brass bridges, is the late '90s, and my friend Jim Napoli, who was a painter for Overland Models, he did all the Norfolk Southern black and white locomotives and did beautiful work. He actually worked for them, and so therefore he had his discount. And so it saved me, a couple $100, thank you, Jim Napoli, 30 years later. Anyway, and it was such a nice piece, $1,000, and it was a nice brass piece, and I wanted another one, so I went to Tinkertown in Clayton, our hobby shop down
Bob
there.
Wischlager.
Yeah, and I said, I want one, Denny, and I told Denny I wanted one. He goes, oh, you got one, you want another one? Yeah, I'll take another one. And so it was $1,000. And I got that one, and I wanted 3 because St. Louis had those 3 bridges across. What's the Merchants
Right, the
Bridge?
MacArthur Bridge.
MacArthur, thank you, sir.
Right.
Yeah, and so I wanted that type of look. The structure was somewhat different, but it's still a 3-bridge span. And so I got a third one I found from another hobby shop somewhere in Texas, I believe. I can't remember now. It's all 30 years ago, and so then I had 3 of them. So I had $3,000 in these bridges, late '90s. I'm broke
now. It is
now.
art.
I'm broke.
It's art.
Yes, and they were so well done, and they stayed in my closet for like 10 years. I mean, Dave Davis was coming over, and he was looking at these bridges sitting in my closet, going, "My God, what are you doing?" And I think you wanted them at one time, and I kind of held them from Kenny. I didn't let him. But so anyway, finally I got this house here, and I had I wanted the shadow box look. I liked the professional museum type quality look is what I wanted with the three bridges, and plus the three bridges together was 10 foot, and it was the quickest 10 foot of model railroad I ever did. I recessed it into the wall, but there was no scenery really involved. I want to do some of your water eventually on the bottom of it, and maybe a backdrop, something up with it. You'll see in the video. Yeah, that was a fun excursion, locating the bridges, actually getting them, because you had to buy them then or forever hold your peace. If you wanted them now, if I wanted them 6 months later, if you wanted them, they were gone.
Right.
And they were, made in China. Overland had them produced in China. So you couldn't ever really get them again, or hope somebody would make one. Central Valley has some nice bridges. My favorite bridges, though, are the micro-engineering bridges, the steel viaducts, which are prototypical St. Louis, back in the 90s.
Along the riverfront.
Yeah, before they put the concrete ones in there. I like the steel structures. I just like the look of it, the movie-type look you would have in some of your older movies, where you see the L's and the city type stuff. So whenever you want to model a city, you got to have the L's in there. To really give the city look. Yes.
Vic, another thing I've noticed on this layout is, in order for you, as we talked about before, you've created a stage where the actors come onto the stage and they run through the scene as you're entertaining your friends down here in this beautiful room. But you've got an amazing staging yard, whereas you've got these trains all lined up, ready to go out at various moments to appear on the layout, just like actors in a play. And you haven't ballasted this yard. This yard has got a hard coat of underneath the track, you've got cork, and then you put polyurethane on top of that, which is given a very smooth finish, which is very easy to clean. Yeah. Talk about that a little bit as we show the viewers that room.
Yeah. So with the backstaging room and control room, with controls all my Digitrack system. Maybe NCE one of these days. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I wanted the trains to run smooth back there, so I wanted a cork. So I incorporated your little. You always had the cork and the sanded, facade in the front with the cherry stain or walnut stain, whichever you would use. And so I used the double cork to give it a smooth ride back there. Some guys like the clickety clack sound. I like it to be quiet and smooth. And I wanted it easy to clean.
Yes.
So I got as you can see, I got all the different tracks in 2 different yards. And I basically, I'll run trains, or some model railroader guys will come back and they'll run trains from one yard to another, through the transfer track, and then take them out onto the main line, which you got to watch the freight running and the passenger trains running. You got to kind of, maneuver yourself in between those and switch the switches and make sure you get them back so no derailments. That's basically what I do back there, is just run train from one yard to another, make consist up, and then run them out onto the main lines. It's just basically, my layout was just a display layout. It wasn't really built for operation. It was just made for just sitting back and enjoying the scene.
That's amazing. One thing I do want to talk about, and Holly brought this up, is you've got a What's Neat car on this layout, don't you?
Oh, yes. Oh, of course I do.
What's Neat this week, freight car, all weathered up, right?
Right. Yeah, because, with your show, everything's always, different every week. That's why people tune in to see what's new in the hobby, the new products. I like doing, photos each week, too, for my layout on Facebook. You can find me in my layout on Facebook also under Vic Smith, VIC. SMITH and City Edge, and that would put you, or Pattonville High. Those words right there will put you right to my Facebook page, and I got hundreds of photos of this layout. It's a simple single focus camera phone. I mean, the photos aren't that high quality.
Yeah, but the work is amazing.
Yeah. Yes,
I've scrolled through it. Yeah. We've shown some of those off on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Yes,
they're beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
the
that.
Beatles walking across.
Oh yes,
right.
Yeah, those are scanning type stuff, which James Regier, I'm sure you guys will get more into as machine cost improve and price goes down. I look forward to seeing what James Regier and you guys are going to produce. As far as making your own little individual people, you can put your own self, your own wife, girlfriend, family, right on your own layout, which is kind of neat, interesting anyway.
Another thing is, the last thing I want to talk about is the fact that this room is designed for entertaining. You've spared like the layout, your attention to detail for comfort. The room is nice, the way the layout's positioned in the room with regards to the entertainment, the adult beverages. Everything is just beautifully laid out, Vic.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Well, it's all because of, the hobby, you got us interested in like the Midwest Valley Modelers. That got us all started into it. A lot of us, and all the hobby shops are around here. I mean, the hobby shops were great. That's what a lot of people are going to miss these days, and today's kids will miss the actual going to the hobby shop and seeing everything physically rather than on the internet. Like Irish Engineers Hobby Shop. Kenny,
Right.
back in the day, St. Patty's Day, this guy would have Irish Engineers Hobby Shop. Steve Mohan would have green beer in the back room out of the keg with the green dye, and he'd have Katie couplers, at cost, some special thing.
Specials.
And it would just draw the crowds in.
Right.
That's what we miss nowadays. We, a lot of, trained guys would have their Friday night crowds where they'd meet, and that was so important back in the day, before the internet, because that's how our information got transferred, and that's how we talked. Now, thankfully though, for the internet, we got YouTube and we got your show every week. So it's basically that's the Friday night show, even though yours is Saturday night.
Right. It's just like that hobby shop banter that we were all looking forward to at the end of the week at the stores.
Yeah.
And that's what we create on our show.
Yeah.
I always say it all the time, Vic, that this is the best hobby in the world,
Yeah.
and it's because of people just like you.
Yes, and this guy, of course. And thank you. Thank you, Kenny.
And I want to thank Vic Smith very much for sharing this beautiful work of art with the viewers of What's Neat, and that is this segment for What's Neat.
Thank you. All right. Good.
Hi, my name is Jason Thomas, and for my segment of What's Neat this week, I'm going to show how to use moss matting for scenery features on a diorama. First step is we're going to take the backing off of the moss matting. It is real thick. You have to be careful with it because otherwise it will catch the moss matting and rip it, and then you don't really want that. You want to try to pull it off as even as possible, and it does come off.
Now, Jason, that moss matting looks absolutely perfect for model railroad scenery. Tell me, where would we find a product like that?
I found this at Hobby Lobby. It was a chance find. I was with my wife shopping one day, and I looked over at this product laying on a shelf, and I looked at my wife and I said, this would make perfect scenery. And I said, I think I'm gonna get some of it. So I went back, and at the time it was $40 a roll. And when I went back, they had marked it down, and I got 3 rolls for that same $40. So this year, and that was last year, so this year it wasn't as easy to find. So I went on Amazon and I found it, and it ranges on Amazon right now between $18 to about $30. So just gotta continue peeling. So now that I've got all the backing pulled off of the scenery material, I will take my Woodland Scenics Scenic Glue, which is a foam tack type of glue, and I will spread it across the diorama that I have built for this process. I also build similar dioramas at home for my model railroad as well. Take the glue, take a brush like this, and you just spread the glue on this diorama. It can get messy, but that's part of the fun. My next step, I take this moss matting material and I lay it down where I want it. And I use T-pins that you can get from any craft supply shop. And I just start applying and pushing down gently so not to rip any of it. To fill in any gaps that you may have. Or you can leave the gaps and use Woodland Scenic foam scenery. You fill in the gaps. And then you let it sit for about an hour, 2 hours. So now that we've let this sit for 2 hours, then we'll come back and I will start on that other side, gluing it down, and then when it's all dry, you'll come back and you can trim off any excess material that you want, and it will look like a fresh field put with grass on it, and you can run your trains once you've done the rest of the scenery, and it will look quite beautiful. So in order to do ballast, we take this, we put ballast in it, and then we run this across the track, which will put ballast down on the track. You can go back this way to even it out. Make sure you get everything on it. And then at that point, I picked a wide feather brush because it actually gets along the top of the entire track. And it makes it so that everything glides across nice and evenly. There's no right or wrong way to do ballast. It is just whether you get it all in between the ties, and then you tap it. To get it evenly between the ties. And with any ballast you have left, you'll run along this other side like so. As evenly as possible. Don't worry about, if you don't get it all on there the first time, you can always come back and add more or take it away if need be. Half the fun of ballasting is knowing that when your railroad is done, it will be your railroad to run trains on. Okay, so after we have our ballast down, we take isopropyl alcohol. 50% to 70% works really good. And we spray it down on top of everything. And it breaks the surface tension so that when the Woodland Scenic cement is added, then it will adhere and bond a lot quicker, a lot better, in my opinion. Gotta be generous with the scenic cement. Right, nice, even hold. In a couple hours, that will adhere to the diorama. Then you can add more grass and artificial turf if you want to. And this is the result. So for my next step, to put ground foam and color along the edge of the road, we take a bead of glue on each side. And don't worry, this will dry clear so it won't make a big mess later. But your glue is so that your ground foam has something to adhere to, so when you add your scenic cement later, you'll have a layer of glue under it. And over here, we just keep going. And add in what we need. And don't worry if you get any extra on the road, you can push it off. Not a big deal. This makes it look like dirt.
Here we go.
Where I come from, our back roads have a lot of debris on them, so I like a little debris on my roads. The coarse turf will add the higher areas at the side of the road. Oops. Too much. Higher areas of the side of the road that you see as you go by, like little bushes and little cactus trees and stuff like that, that kind of stick up in the ditches. Add some medium green. Don't be too worried about making a mess, because it'll look okay when you're done. Again, we apply a little alcohol. Mist it on. And then we add our scenic cement. So after all of this dries, you'll come back in about 2, maybe 3 hours, and you'll pull all your pins up, and you will have used this moss matting from Hobby Lobby is where I got it, but you can also get it on Amazon. Scenic Express and Knock also sell a similar product, so you can find it on their websites, which scenicexpress.com and knock.com. You can find it there. I also use the Woodland Scenics turf materials to make the shoulders of the road and the ballast material for the track. And after, like I said, after about 2 or 3 hours, it dries and you'll have a completed diorama that you can enjoy running trains on. And that is this segment for What's Neat this week.
For this segment of What's Neat, all the way out from beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, I've got Larry Harrington from Bachmann Industries, and we always look forward to this segment of the show where we get an update on some of the newest products in the industry, and today will be no disappointment, will it, Larry?
No, actually, we have a little bit more than I originally planned. We have 2 products that we're going to talk about today. So
fantastic.
Got a little surprise in the mail this morning, so worked out perfectly.
Well, I've got all these beautiful Charger locomotives in HO scale on the table, and they're second to none. We had an interview in this month's video with Vic Smith from the City Edge, and he just talked so much about how he loves the special effects on these locomotives because they help in lighting up his amazing layout.
These locomotives were cutting edge for us. We have the first time we incorporated a decoder with 10 lighting functions. We worked really close with the guys at TCS, which I know you've had on your show a few times, and it was an incredible journey all together. We're still continuing it with all the variations of the locomotives that are coming out. As you on your table, you have both the SC44 and the ALC42. That's the Amtrak long haul version. We are working on our N scale introduction right now, and it's the SC44. And here's the HO version we have here.
Okay.
And surprise, there's the N scale version.
Beautiful.
So we have the same 4 road paint schemes that we had on the first version of the Amtrak. We have varied the cab numbers a little bit different than from the HO, but we have the 2 versions of the Amtrak Midwest. And there's another one.
Very cool.
And then we have also the Washington Cascades. And if I tilt my display down a little bit, I can show you actually a functional one on the track here. So tell me if you can see that okay.
Oh, look at those lights.
Yep. So basically we were able to incorporate everything. I'll get the sound up here for you. Everything that we did in HO, we were able to incorporate in N scale, with one tiny exception. The destination board is not illuminated on the N scale, but everything else is the same exact function, same exact decoder, same exact sound. So
wow.
There's the horn, there's the bell. If you could see the ditch lights alternating in the front there.
Yes.
You can. The strobes are firing off. I can get the emergency strobe to fire off. You hear the brake air dump there when that happens. Now the red emergency strobe is also flashing as well.
Fantastic.
So we were really, really pleased. We were worried that we wouldn't be able to get all the functionality in it originally, especially the iconic vent illumination on the side there. But it all has worked out over the last. I mean, this is our first shot that we had. We had we get something that comes in as one color, and thought we'd look at the tooling and find problems with it if there's any issues. There was a couple minor ones, and they forgot a couple fan blades on the detail on the roof. We fixed all that. Getting all the functions, running it on the track, and testing it while they're doing the decoration samples, because it takes a long time really to get to this point where you have all these colors, and especially with this particular paint scheme, it's really a complex scheme with all the dot patterns and the striping and the 4 different colors or 5 different colors on the locomotive, with the front with the details of the, you can see the destination board, even though there every little marking is on there. So it's really interesting to shrink it down into N scale. It's been a great journey. So
I can see on the smile on your face you're very pleased with that one.
This has been one of the most exciting products I've launched since I've been here. It's really been an exciting product overall. I got to go, I've mentioned it before, but I got to go out to the TTCI test facility with the TCS guys, and we actually recorded the sounds for 2 days. Went through a thunderstorm with our microphones in the air. We had to tear everything down, and got started again later in that day. So it was an interesting thing just to see what goes into all the hard work that TCS does as well. We do the engineering work on our side to make the model function, but the sound brings it alive. It really is an amazing model.
That's awesome, Larry. Now I heard you got a special delivery this morning that you want to talk about.
Yeah, in HO, we actually was surprised. We got the decorated samples of our coil, 55-foot coil car.
Beautiful.
So, we have them in CSX, and we have, this one's really bright and shiny, the Union Pacific, and this is the BNSF version.
Fabulous.
And finally, Norfolk Southern version.
Oh, I like the color of those hoods.
Yeah, they all come off, and we do have, they do come with the steel coils. I haven't unpacked them yet, but they're here in the package as well. So
okay.
They come in the little package. You get 6 coils to fit in there as well. But both the covers come off. They fit on there nicely. And you can, simulate the loading scene or run them without the hoods on them for a little bit if you're doing that.
Very cool. Now, I know that the release of this video will be around July 15th, and shortly thereafter that, about 25 days, we will have the NMRA National Train Show and Convention here in St. Louis, and I believe Bachmann is going to have a presence at that. Is that correct?
Yep, we've been at every NMRA show, even the virtual show. So it's that since I've been with the company anyway. So it's something we don't miss. It's important to get there to show off our new products. This will be our launch for any new items for this year, other than road names. We do the road name announcements in our catalog, but NMRA is always exciting because it's all of our new items that we're coming out with. New tooling, improved tooling, new versions with sound for some items we've done in the past. And it's a good chance for us to meet the serious modeler.
Yes.
And get feedback and what they want from us as a company. And it's a very important show. And it's good to see face to face. Even though we had the virtual show, it was a very limited number of people that attended that I was able to get feedback from last year. So I really missed that. It's been 3 years now, basically, that we haven't been able to see all those folks. And what's good about the NMRA is it travels around all over the country, and we see different people in different places. So it's important to get a broad perspective of your customer base to see what everybody wants out there. So
that's fabulous. I couldn't have said it better myself. This hobby is the best hobby in the world. I said that in the Vic interview, and it's because of folks and the team at Bachmann Industries, just like you, Larry.
Well, I appreciate that, Ken. I'm glad to be here and glad that we're able to get out to all the viewers and show off our products. It's a real good thing.
That's fabulous. Thank you so much for contributing to the show today. And with that is this segment for What's Neat.
Thanks a lot.
All of the products seen on this episode of What's Neat are available from Lombard Hobbies in Lombard, Illinois, or order online at lombardhobby.com. Bachmann Trains. Now that's the way to run a railroad. Check out their website at bachmanntrains.com.